The fortune of the Knights of Christ. Where is the Templar treasure? In the silent corridors of medieval memory, where empires rose and fell under the weight of ambition, one mystery still pulses like a buried heartbeat beneath the ruins of history. The lost fortune of the Knights Templar. Imagine a treasure so vast, so meticulously protected, and so deeply interwoven into the political and spiritual structure of Europe that its disappearance shook kings, paralyzed the Vatican, and ignited legends that refused to die. In the final nights before the Templar purge, caravans vanished without a trace. Ships left ports, and never arrived, and sealed vaults were found empty, as if the wealth had dissolved into the air. But wealth does not vanish, it transforms, and those who knew the rituals of secrecy knew how to hide not just gold, but truth. As you step into this hulk, prepare to confront the unsettling possibility that the treasure never disappeared at all. It simply shifted into the shadows, guarded by those who understood its power too well. The deeper you go into this revelation, the more the puzzle tightens. Witnesses spoke of coded routes, encrypted ledgers, and knights who rode through the night carrying chests no inquisitor ever recovered. These were not desperate men fleeing with spoils. They were strategists carrying out the final phase of a plan written long before the Vatican's decree of destruction. The treasure they protected was not merely financial, it was symbolic, political, and spiritual. It held maps, relics, documents, and secrets capable of destabilizing crowns. And as Europe trembled under the rising storm, the Templars scattered their resources across clandestine refuges, forming a web of concealment so intricate that even the church could not unravel it. Visualize the fear that seized royal courts when they realized the Templar vaults were empty. Kings who believed they would inherit the Order's unimaginable wealth were left with nothing but sealed documents and a silence that mocked their greed. The Vatican, expecting to seize the gold to fund its power, instead found a void so deliberate it became an accusation. Rumors spread that the Templars had moved their fortune through underground tunnels in Paris, hidden it in monastic strongholds, or loaded it onto ships that sailed into eternal secrecy. Some believed the treasure was taken to Scotland. Others said it was buried under the Temple Mount. Others whispered that the Order transformed it into a different kind of power, influence hidden behind new banners. As the pillars of history tremble beneath this mystery, one truth becomes unescapable. Whatever the treasure was, wherever it went, whoever controls it now, its force still shapes the world. And as you cross the threshold of this narrative, one question echoes with chilling clarity, the same question that has haunted historians, kings, and seekers for centuries. Where is the Templar treasure really hidden? This is the beginning of a revelation that refuses to rest. Prepare yourself, the forbidden truth is about to surface. As you step into this introduction, a chilling awareness settles over you. The realization that the story of the Templar fortune was never only about gold, but about control, power, and the silent war between truth and authority. Every chronicle that mentions the treasure does so with hesitation, as if the writers themselves feared the consequences of revealing too much. In the aftermath of the Templars' arrest, inquisitors searched vaults, interrogated knights, and seized documents, yet what they expected to find, the greatest accumulation of medieval wealth, had already vanished. This disappearance was not a failure of surveillance. It was the result of a plan crafted decades earlier by men trained to foresee catastrophe. And as you cross this threshold, you begin to understand that the treasure's true significance went far beyond material riches. It represented the Order's independence, its sovereignty, and its ability to defy kingdoms and the Church itself. Moving deeper into this shadowed narrative, you sense that the treasure's disappearance was orchestrated with precision. The final masters of the Order knew their downfall was inevitable, long before the Vatican issued its decree. They anticipated betrayal, calculated political shifts, and recognized the rising hostility of kings who feared the Order's influence. So, the Templars transformed their wealth into something intangible: alliances, coded knowledge, and strategic placements that ensured the Church could never hold absolute power over Europe. In this introduction, you begin to see that the treasure was not merely hidden, it was weaponized. In every rumor that followed, ships sailing at night, caravans disappearing under guard, chests sealed with symbols no inquisitor understood, was part of a larger design meant to protect a truth too dangerous to expose. The farther your imagination travels, the more you feel the weight of the questions that have haunted historians for centuries. Why did no knight confess the treasure's location, even under torture? Why were certain Templar archives mysteriously spared from destruction? And why did multiple European monarchies suddenly acquire unexplained financial strength in the decades after the Order's fall? These patterns do not point to coincidence. They point to coordination, a silent brotherhood acting with unified purpose. In this introduction, every detail becomes a clue that the treasure's fate was not accidental but deliberate, executed with the efficiency of an Order trained to guard secrets at the cost of blood. You realize the treasure may not have been one single cache. but a fragmented system of wealth and knowledge distributed across unexpected places. By the final breath of this introduction, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The treasure of the Knights Templar did not vanish, it evolved. What was once gold may now be influence. What was once a vault may now be an institution. What was once a chest may now be a lineage of knowledge carried in silence. And as you stand before the unfolding map of this mystery, you feel the gravity of a revelation that historians feared, kings envied, and the church sought to bury. The treasure is not lost. It is hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who understand how to see what was never meant to be seen. In the first topic of this investigation, the true architecture of the Templar fortune begins to take shape, not as a simple accumulation of gold, but as a vast and meticulously engineered financial empire. The Knights Templar were not merely warriors. They were the world's first international bankers, operating a system so advanced that kings, merchants, and even the church depended on it. Their network stretched across continents, connecting preceptories, ports, castles, and commanderies through a web of encrypted transactions and coded accounting systems. This financial structure allowed the Templars to transfer wealth without moving physical coin, using written orders recognized from Portugal to Jerusalem. And because the order handled pilgrim deposits, royal debts, military funding, and land income, they accumulated fortunes that were never stored in one location but distributed across hundreds of strategic points. As you explore this first layer, you see that the Templar treasure was never meant to sit in a vault. It was designed to circulate as a living, breathing system, impossible for enemies to confiscate with a single strike. As you delve deeper, you discover that this financial apparatus was built with foresight. The Templars understood risk better than any medieval institution and prepared for political betrayal long before it arrived. Their inner circle developed contingency protocols to scatter assets when threatened, and these measures activated the moment the papal decree against the order was issued. Within hours of the first arrests in France, chests disappeared from Paris, ships vanished from La Rochelle, and coded letters reached distant commanderies, with instructions only the higher ranks could decipher. This was not chaos, it was execution of a plan perfected over decades. In this first topic, you realize that the Templars' greatest weapon was not the sword, but the ability to make their wealth invisible. Their treasure was not a mass of coins, but a system so fluid that no inquisitor could ever seize more than fragments. Advancing through this revelation, it becomes clear that the Templars' wealth included far more than material riches. The order possessed maps unknown to Europe, astronomical charts inherited from Eastern scholars, construction secrets passed through master builders, medicinal formulas preserved from ancient cultures, and relics venerated for centuries. These non-material assets were often valued more deeply than gold because they could influence kingdoms, empower explorers, and destabilize the church's narrative. The treasure, therefore, was intellectual knowledge. The Vatican feared because it challenged doctrinal authority. When the arrests began, many of these manuscripts were removed from their libraries and transported under armored guard to secret locations. Some were hidden in monastic vaults. Others became the foundation of later institutions that history never traced back to the order. In this first topic, every step reveals that the treasure was multidimensional: financial, intellectual, spiritual, and political. By the final stretch of this topic, a striking truth emerges. The Templars did not lose their fortune. They orchestrated its disappearance. They understood that survival would require dissolving their wealth into a structure the church could neither understand nor penetrate. The Vatican expected to seize gold and found only emptiness. But the emptiness was the proof of the order's brilliance. The treasure had already been reabsorbed into alliances, converted into influence, scattered into hidden archives, or carried by loyal brothers who would rather die than reveal a single detail. In this first topic, the foundation is set. The Templar treasure was not lost. It was protected by men who mastered the art of disappearance, leaving behind a mystery powerful enough to haunt the world for 7 centuries. In the second topic, the investigation shifts from wealth to logistics, revealing how the Templars engineered one of the most sophisticated evacuation operations in medieval history. When King Philip IV launched his coordinated arrests on October 13, 1307, he believed the order would be caught off guard, but he gravely underestimated the Templars' intelligence network. Weeks before the crackdown, covert messengers, merchant allies, and sympathetic clerics transmitted warnings to key comitaries. As a result, the Templars executed a rapid response plan that moved assets out of vulnerable regions with surgical precision. Parisian vaults emptied in a single night. High-ranking knights vanished before sunrise. Coded orders redirected caravans toward safe corridors mapped years earlier. This was not improvisation, but the activation of a contingency system designed for the exact scenario of betrayal. Every route, every stop, every safe house had been calculated long before the Vatican demanded their extinction. As you uncover this network, the role of maritime escape routes becomes unmistakable. The Templars were master navigators with fleets stationed at strategic points such as La Rochelle, a port known for its secrecy and its loyalty to the order. Witnesses reported that entire ships departed in the dark, carrying sealed chests, archives, and high-ranking knights whose names never appeared in inquisitorial records. These vessels did not sail randomly. They followed pre-charted routes toward destinations where the Church's reach was weak or non-existent. Some journeys led to Scotland, which was excommunicated at the time and therefore beyond papal jurisdiction. Others moved toward Portugal, where the crown protected the Templars and later reincorporated them under the Order of Christ. This maritime escape was not a desperate flight. It was a deliberate relocation of knowledge and resources to regions where the order could survive and regenerate. The deeper this topic unfolds, the more you encounter evidence of hidden alliances that made the disappearance possible. Certain European monarchs, despite outward obedience to the papacy, secretly benefited from the Templars' banking system and skill set. These rulers provided covert protection, allowing knights to pass through their borders without interference. Nobles indebted to the order offered refuge in fortified estates. Merchants loyal to Templar credit networks disguised the movement of wealth as cargo exchanges. Even some clerics, aware of the order's role in stabilizing pilgrim routes and protecting Christian territories, chose silence over betrayal. These alliances created a protective web that shielded the escaping knights, allowing them to carry their treasure, both material and intellectual, far beyond the Vatican's grasp. What appeared to be a collapse was, in reality, a controlled and strategic withdrawal. By the end of this topic, one realization becomes unavoidable. The Templars did not merely hide, they relocated with purpose. Their disappearance was not the end of an order, but a transition into a new phase of existence shaped by secrecy and survival. The treasure was moved through coordinated routes, protected by loyal allies, and dispersed across multiple safe havens to ensure that no single power could ever seize it. Through this operation, the Templars transformed their downfall into an opportunity to evolve beyond the reach of kings and popes. Topic 2 makes one truth unmistakably clear. The escape was not a legend crafted by storytellers, it was a masterfully executed strategy that ensured the Templar legacy would not burn in the fires of the Inquisition. In the third topic, the focus shifts from movement and escape to concealment and transformation, revealing how the Templars mastered the art of making their treasure disappear in ways no army, no king, and no church authority could ever reverse. What most people imagine as a single hidden vault was, in truth, a decentralized system of concealment built across continents. The Templars understood that storing their wealth in one location made it vulnerable, so they divided it into layers. Tangible assets such as gold and relics, intangible assets such as coded documents and banking ledgers, and ideological assets, such as knowledge inherited from centuries of Eastern and Western scholarship. Each layer was hidden, using different methods, guarded by different groups, and transported along routes known only to select members of the Order's highest ranks. This fragmentation made their treasure not just hard to find, but impossible to seize in its entirety. And as you step into this topic, you begin to recognize that the greatest brilliance of the Templars was not hiding the treasure physically, but hiding it conceptually. A significant part of this system relied on cryptography and symbolic encryption. The Templars embedded information in architectural designs, sacred geometry, stained glass patterns, floor plans of commanderies, and manuscripts disguised as theological commentary. Instructions for treasure locations, financial codes, and political alliances were encoded within numerical sequences, astrological alignments, and diagrams inspired by ancient sources. To an ordinary observer, these symbols appeared decorative. To an initiated knight, they were maps, warnings, and keys. Some of these encrypted messages were passed to stonemasons, scholars, and navigators who preserved them unknowingly through their crafts. Over time, these symbols migrated into cathedrals, castles, and maritime charts. In this topic, it becomes clear that the treasure was not simply buried, it was woven into the cultural and intellectual fabric of Europe. Another layer of concealment involved institutional transformation. When the Order of Christ was established in Portugal, many surviving Templars seamlessly transitioned into positions of leadership. Under this new identity, they continued controlling lands, resources, and archives that once belonged to the original order. Much of the Templar wealth was laundered through donations, land grants, trade networks, and maritime expeditions. Ships financed under the Order of Christ carried not only goods but fragments of the Templar treasure, documents, charts, relics, and the knowledge that would shape the future. Because these new institutions were not officially Templar, the Church was unable to seize or suppress their assets. What the Vatican believed to be victory was actually the Order's greatest camouflage. The Templar treasure lived on behind new names and new banners, perfectly shielded by political legitimacy. By the final breath of this topic, one truth stands unshakable. The treasure was never a simple hoard waiting to be discovered. It was a living network of wealth, Knowledge, alliances, and power deliberately scattered into systems that ensured survival through centuries of persecution. Every disappearance, every coded symbol, every institutional shift had a purpose. The Templars did not bury their treasure beneath the earth. They buried it within the world itself. And as this realization settles in, you understand why the treasure has never been found. To find it, one would have to untangle the very structure of medieval history, decode centuries of hidden architecture, and reconstruct a brotherhood that designed its legacy to remain forever, just beyond the grasp of those who tried to destroy it. In the fourth topic, the investigation descends into the political dimension of the Templar treasure, exposing how the Order's immense wealth became both its greatest strength and the catalyst for its destruction. To understand where the treasure went, one must first understand why the Vatican and European monarchs feared it so intensely. The Templars possessed not only gold, but financial independence, military autonomy, and diplomatic networks more sophisticated than any kingdom of the Middle Ages. They held lands across Europe, commanded fleets, financed crusades, and maintained alliances that bypassed royal authority. This level of power placed them beyond the control of kings and popes, a position intolerable to rulers who believed divine right granted them absolute authority. Thus, the treasure became a symbol of defiance, proof that a brotherhood of disciplined warriors could stand outside the hierarchy of church and crown. The purge of the order was not driven by piety or justice. It was driven by political necessity. As the suppression unfolded, a new truth emerged. The value of the Templar fortune was not the gold itself, but the leverage it created. Kings owed the order massive debts. Nobles relied on Templar loans. Merchants used Templar credit systems to move goods, and the church itself depended on the order for safe passage of pilgrims and financing of crusades. The Vatican expected that seizing the treasure would instantly dissolve this influence, but when the vaults were found empty, the opposite occurred. The sudden disappearance of the wealth destabilized entire economies. Debts became uncollectible, supply routes faltered, military plans collapsed, and royal treasuries faced crises. By removing the treasure from the political arena, the Templars created a power vacuum that weakened those who sought their destruction. The Church had hoped to absorb the Order's strength. Instead, it inadvertently revealed its own dependence on Templar stability. Topic 4 exposes a harsh irony. The Vatican's attempt to destroy the Templars amplified the very power it wanted to erase. Another layer of this political puzzle involves the territories where the treasure may have been sheltered. Scotland, excommunicated during the Purge, became a refuge where papal agents held no authority. Portugal, bound by loyalty and strategic alliances, protected the order and re-established it under the name Order of Christ. Certain Italian city-states, driven by trade rather than religious dogma, provided economic cover for Templar operations. Even in France, ground zero of the persecution, powerful nobles continued secretly supporting Templar remnants, fearing the economic collapse that would follow complete eradication. The political landscape of Europe became a chessboard, with the treasure serving as the unseen king that determined the strategy of every major player. Its location mattered less than the leverage it created, and the Templars ensured that no single ruler could gain enough information to dominate the rest. By the final steps of this topic, the true magnitude of the Templars' strategy becomes undeniable. They weaponized their disappearance. The treasure was not simply hidden, it was removed from the reach of every faction, ensuring that no king or pope could rise to unchallenged supremacy. In doing so, the Templars preserved the balance of power they had helped build across medieval Europe. Their fortune became a ghost, impossible to possess, yet powerful enough to haunt every throne that had sought to claim it. And as this political dimension unfolds, one truth stands immovable. The Templars did not lose the war, they simply changed the battlefield, turning their treasure into a silent force that shaped history long after the last Crusader banner was torn down. In the fifth topic, the investigation reaches its most mythic and unsettling dimension. The possibility that the Templar treasure was never meant to be found because part of it was not material at all. As centuries passed, legends began to emerge, describing the treasure not as gold or relics, but as a body of secret knowledge the Templars acquired in the Holy Land. According to chroniclers, the knights excavated beneath the Temple Mount, uncovering manuscripts, artifacts, and esoteric teachings predating Christianity itself. These discoveries, preserved in coded archives and carried across the Templar network, were believed to contain revelations capable of reshaping religious authority. Some spoke of maps leading to forgotten civilizations. Others whispered of ancient rituals, lost technologies, and doctrines that contradicted orthodox teachings. Whether literal or symbolic, these accounts reveal a powerful truth. Part of the treasure may have been knowledge so dangerous that hiding it became more important than protecting gold. In this topic, you begin to understand why no vault has ever yielded a definitive answer, because the most valuable treasure may lie in the realm of ideas, safeguarded by silence rather than stone. As this dimension unfolds, the role of Tomar, Scotland, and Eastern strongholds gains new significance. These were not only safe havens but intellectual sanctuaries where surviving Templars preserved teachings that blended Christian mysticism, Judaic tradition, and ancient Eastern philosophy. Over generations, this knowledge influenced secret brotherhoods, navigators, scholars, and architects who carried fragments of the Templar worldview into the Renaissance and beyond. Some historians argue that this hidden intellectual legacy resurfaced through the Order of Christ, shaping Portugal's age of discoveries and guiding explorers who crossed oceans using navigational principles the medieval world could not explain. Others believe the Templar knowledge seeped into esoteric societies, encoded in symbols, geometric patterns, and initiation rituals that survived long after the Vatican declared the order extinct. Under this lens, the treasure becomes a living current, flowing through the minds of those who inherited even fragments of the forbidden wisdom the Templars guarded. Another layer of this mythic landscape concerns the possibility that the treasure's guardians intentionally allowed the legend to grow. Rumors of gold buried beneath mountains, hidden beneath cathedrals, or sealed in underwater caverns functioned as deliberate misdirection, diverting attention from the intangible treasure that mattered most. By feeding the world with tales of lost riches, the Templars protected the true legacy, ideas, knowledge capable of unmaking the political and theological foundations of medieval Europe. In this topic, you begin to recognize that the endless search for physical gold served the order perfectly, keeping kings, popes, and treasure hunters occupied while the real inheritance flowed silently from generation to generation through coded manuscripts, symbols, and alliances hidden in plain sight. By the end of this topic, a final realization crystallizes. The treasure of the Knights Templar may not be a destination, but a continuum, part material, part intellectual, part spiritual, and part mythological. It was designed to survive by evolving, just as the order itself evolved through exile, suppression, and transformation. The greatest brilliance of the Templars was understanding that a treasure capable of reshaping the world could not remain locked in a chest. It had to live in people, in structures, in symbols, and in stories powerful enough to outlast every attempt to erase them. Topic 5 closes with a revelation that echoes through the centuries. The treasure was never meant to be found because it was meant to endure. In the final descent into this mystery, one truth rises above the ruins of centuries. The treasure of the Knights Templar was never merely wealth. It was a legacy built to outlive kingdoms, inquisitions, and every attempt to silence their name. As the order collapsed under the weight of betrayal, the Templars executed the most brilliant act of preservation in medieval history. They dissolved their fortune into roots, symbols, alliances, and knowledge that no army could seize and no authority could destroy. What the Vatican believed extinguished was, in reality, transformed, and from that transformation emerged an influence that rippled through the ages, guiding explorers, shaping political balances, inspiring esoteric brotherhoods, and embedding itself in the architecture and intellect of the world. The treasure survived not because it was hidden, but because it evolved, becoming an immortal pulse beneath the foundations of Western history. As the dust of time settles, the Templar legacy reveals its most astonishing truth. The order did not die, it transcended form. The Knights understood that power rooted in gold could be stolen, but power rooted in knowledge, discipline, and belief could become eternal. So they embedded their teachings into institutions that would never bear their name, coded their wisdom into geometric patterns, infused their vision into the earliest navigators, and allowed their silence to speak louder than any proclamation. Through the Order of Christ, through maritime expansion, through whispered alliances and hidden symbols, the Templar spirit flowed into the bloodstream of civilizations that never realized the source of their transformation. The treasure became a living force, passed through minds, manuscripts, and movements that carried fragments of a truth, too vast for a vault and too dangerous for a crown. This conclusion exposes a legacy that cannot be measured in coins or relics, but in influence. The Templars mastered a principle centuries ahead of their time, that the greatest power is the ability to shape the future without being seen. By allowing themselves to vanish, they ensured that their ideas would travel farther than their banners ever could. Their downfall became their rebirth. Their silence became their shield. Their disappearance became the foundation of their immortality. Every unanswered question, every coded symbol, every unexplained alliance, every architectural anomaly becomes a whispered reminder that the Templars did not vanish. They scattered themselves across the world so completely that history could never erase them. Their treasure became a myth. Their myth became a force. Their force became a legacy without corpse or grave. And so, as we close this journey, one realization stands unshakable. The Templars achieved the one victory no empire, no church, no monarch has ever conquered. They made their legacy immortal. Through secrecy, through knowledge, through transformation, they became more than warriors or bankers or mystics. They became an idea. And an idea, once unleashed, cannot be chained, condemned, or executed. The treasure lives because the Templar spirit still breathes in the curiosity of every seeker who dares to question what the Church tried to bury. Their legacy endures, not in gold, but in the unstoppable truth that survives every attempt to silence it. This is the immortal legacy of the Knights Templar, a force that continues to echo through time. Unbroken, unchanged, and undeniably alive. If this journey into the forbidden truth of the Templar treasure awakened your curiosity and opened your eyes to what history tried to bury, don't let the trail end here. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share your theories in the comments. Your engagement keeps these hidden stories alive, strengthens the search for deeper truths, and helps us uncover the mysteries the world was never meant to understand.